recap, a cover, okay, just one-handed, nice and hard, John. Yeah, anything where I'm sticking my weapon in the way. Basically, one and two-handed, here we go. Frontale, or, you know, or finestra, anything where I'm sticking my weapon in the way of his weapon and my body, that's a cover, okay? Was beats, yeah, up, down, or whatever from the other side, up, down, body, with one hand on the weapon, okay? Here you go, up, down, that's a beat. A break, okay, so yeah, that's a break. If you thrust at me, John, coming up, yeah, that's a break. From one-handed, up, down, that's a break. Hi, I'm Marky with the Exiles, joined by John from Exiles in Barking. In this video, I want to do a bit of a supplemental thing, actually. Again, during lockdowns, when I was solo, I had to be solo, I did a video on defining the actions of beats, the actions of breaks, and the actions of covers. Effectively what I was talking about in that video, and I'll link that video underneath because it's going to have a bit more detail that we're going to miss out in this one, because what we want to do here is give it a bit of context. But effectively what I was talking about was those actions being quite common actions to bridge the gap between Master Battle and Master Remedy. Remembering that Fiore breaks his fight into 4 sections basically. Master Battle, Master Remedy, Master Contrary, and then Contra Contrary. So 4 stages of the fight, okay? And there's other videos with more detail about that. So what I want to do is give it some context, okay? I want to use this video to, again, define those actions, now with a partner, thankfully, and you know, just explore some of these mechanics, okay? So what does a cover look like in the system at speed? What does a beat look like, and what does a break look like? I'm also going to talk about how we categorize them. Now, the first video underneath has a bit more detail, okay? But how we categorize them, I think, is quite a useful way to remember these actions, and also to think about common places where they might exist within a typical sort of exchange, and how they lead on to certain plays. So we're going to just explore all of that, but do, you know, look at that first video, because there's going to be some context there that's not in this one. So let's get our masks on and get to it. So the first action we'll talk about is a covering action, okay? Now remember, these are approximate definitions that we use, we find helpful. Even within the manuscript, there's a couple of explicit actions that Fiore also uses mixed terminology for, so, you know, it's not always a hard and fast rule. But effectively, how we define it in terms of a cover is that I'm simply just covering a line of attack. So with one hand, I'm covering a line of attack. If the attack is to the other side, or I feel a bit ballsy, I'm covering a line of attack. If I want to pull the cover high from Fendente or whatever, I can cover a line of attack. So let's say John comes off of his right shoulder, yeah, I'm just covering a line of attack, all right? With 2 hands, yeah, Posta Frontale is a good go-to, just covering a line, yeah, on the other side, yeah, just covering a line, covering lines of attack. Yeah, I can do it with Finestra, yeah, I'm just covering lines of attack. So I'm basically just putting my weapon in between their weapon and my body. So covers, okay, and like I say, the beats, breaks and covers actions are the link really between Master Battle and a Remedy, okay, a play in action. So everything out here, just a reminder, everything out here, moving, staying at distance, cutting, beats, breaks and covers, they're all Master Battle, okay, and I've done a previous video on Master Battle which I'll also drop in the description below. So you learn them in isolation, and then what you start looking at is where it's logical to use a cover to enter a play from the manuscript. So some of them are really, really obvious. Like, for example, with sword in one hand, Ligadura Mezzana. I'm coming up, the arm is straight, so I can't do that play, but I'll do a different one, take hold of the pommel, pull it aside, line up the thrust. But that action was generated from a cover. Yeah, here, no problem. Yeah, with sword in 2 hands, there's all kinds of things. Yeah, I can come up here, well, there you go, I've got actions there. You can close to stretto, but I'm doing those plays from a cover. Now, to help with that journey, after you've learnt them in isolation, it's really important that you drill them, okay? You're not just going to drill plays and techniques, you're going to drill everything. We drill everything, okay? But by building these things into a drill, you're helping yourself develop not just positioning and forming the covers, but also you can start to add in plays. And this is a really useful type of approach to drilling, because you can start this drilling really early. I'll give you an example. So with our very brand new students, one of the first things we'll get them to do is, sword in one hand, we'll get them to do, for example, a covers drill. So they'll cover like this, the cut will come on that side, then they'll cover like that. Then they'll cut back, 1, 2, here, 1, 2. Very basic, very simple. What we're looking at is the agreement between hand and foot. We're looking at the right foot coming forward. Doesn't always work that way, and that's not the end of the world if it doesn't. There's other things, there's other plays for that. We're looking at positioning, managing distance, a very, very basic drill. But when that student starts learning techniques, they will put it into a drill like this. So we'll go through the drill. Cut, cover, cover, cut. There's a play, there's a pommel, there's a stab, and then we'll just go back to the drill again. Yeah. So I'll reset. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Nice and deep on the arm. There's a ligadura, and so on and so forth. So you'll put the play into the drill. Okay. And this is helping that step between learning a play in isolation and then putting it into a movable, dynamic situation where things aren't clean and they don't always work, and sometimes you've got to push twice at the arm to get the wrap, is helping that progression. So that's covers, and that's the evolution of a cover and how we start to work that into going from Master Battle into Master Remedy. Okay, next is our beating actions. We've done, again, I always say this now, we've done previous videos of what beats actually are, but in the context of this video, we'll just run through the sequence of them and then just talk about how to build in plays off of that. So we always start one-handed in our curriculum, okay? Beat from this side, we're coming offline, we're coming up, we're coming down, okay? There's loads of different ways I can take that. I can come really, really, really offline. Yeah, I can come up, down at the head. If I'm too far away, the arms. If I miss completely, that's okay. I'll come back to different posture. I can be really tight with that too. Straight up, straight down. That's a beating action. From the other side with one hand, it's a little bit more risky, but we practice it nevertheless. So we come offline, we come up, we come down. Now that's something you pull out the bag if you need to. If you're caught out low with one hand on the weapon and it's a reactive thing, okay? So we always practice that on both sides. With two hands, it's a lot quicker. Down, yeah. I can step a little bit, I can stay static, up, down. Yeah, I can come really wide, up, down. Or I can take a different line altogether. Up, down. Yeah, loads of actions off of that. From the other side, same again, cross the body, down. Yeah, cross the body, head. Or cross the body, leg, whatever. Again, we practice it on both sides, and we'll drill that too. We won't go through the drill now because we've just done a drill, but same principle, okay? We are building that action into a drill, and then we're working plays off of that, okay? There are less examples of plays off of a beat in the system than there are covers. Covers are a much more frequent way to enter into a play, okay? The important thing about beats is in terms of our definition, so if covers are putting your sword in the way of their weapon and your body, then the definition of a beat is that we are effectively changing the angle. We're deflecting our opponent's weapon. So all of those ones I was doing there were quite big deflections, okay? But effectively, I'm just trying to change its angle. Now, sometimes that can be quite protracted. Sometimes it can be quite subtle. Sometimes that can be quite protracted. Sometimes it can be quite subtle, okay? But that's how we define a beat. Just to make it clear for everybody, new students, advanced students, whatever, when we say a beat, is that kind of deflective action that we're looking for, okay? Same with just one hand on it. I mean, I can do just a shitty off the wrist if I want to, yeah? But it's that deflection. So the sword is going to keep coming, it's going to keep traveling along its path, but I'm just deflecting it a little bit, okay? Now, at a lower level, and especially when I'm teaching these videos, I tend to do very protracted beats, very big, large-scale actions, because I'm trying to get the message across. I'm trying to very clearly define what it is that we are trying to do. But as I've just said, these can be quite subtle actions. If you're going to keep them subtle, it's important to do something with intent, okay? So whenever I do a subtle beat, I'm doing something with it straight away, okay? There's the thrust. Yeah, I'm doing something with it straight away all the time, and I'm always coming offline with a very subtle beat, okay? I'm coming, even if it's just a couple of inches, I'm coming offline all the time, okay? Because I might miss. And again, the evolution of that from Master Battle into Master Remedy, you know, you'll put plays onto it, you'll find them, you'll drill this, okay? You'll combine this with a covers drill, and so on and so forth. The next action is breaks. Okay, I've done a couple of videos on this just recently. John and I talked about the importance of trying to break with the end of my sword, if I'm the person breaking, onto the middle of theirs. We showed why that isn't always clean, why it's very difficult, but why it's important, we feel. But breaking a sword, so how we, again, loosely define a breaking action is to completely destroy the path of the weapon. So if a beat is, if you stick your sword out, John, if a beat is just deflecting, okay, if John cuts at me, he's still going to be cutting forward, but I'm just changing the angle, okay? If that's a beat, then a break is breaking its path, yeah? And again, that's a protracted action, that's a protracted breaking type action. Commonly, if I'm beating, I'm coming from behind the weapon or from the same side as the weapon. So he's on the right, I'm on the left because I'm trying to come from behind it. I'm trying to nudge it out the way. Quite commonly, if I'm braking, I'm coming from what would be the same side, his right, my right, but on the opposite side of my opponent. So I'm trying to brake. Okay, I'm trying to brake the path of the weapon. And this also applies to thrusts as well. So if John is thrusting at me, I'm trying to brake the path, completely destroy it, and if possible, put it to ground. But again, I generally am, in these videos, because we're not trying to push out very complicated material, for that you need to come and actually train with us, but we can do it in person and so on and so forth. But I'm trying to protract the action and almost overemphasize the action to get the message across. This can just as easily be a very subtle action. If you stick out your sword in posture longer, that's a break. It can be as easy as that, okay? If I'm coming from the same side, I can just, I can be very, very subtle. I don't have to smash it all the time. It's still a braking action because I'm braking the path. I'm not deflecting it now, I'm braking the path. So that's the definition of brakes, okay? Remember, there's more in that first video that's underneath. What I also talked about in that first video is sometimes where the lines get a bit blurred, okay? And that happens all over. If I'm on this side and he is thrusting at me, okay, this is a cover, okay? But if I'm doing it at speed with power, it can actually start to look a little bit like a brake as well. And in fact, I can turn it into a brake if I want to. I can turn it into a brake, okay, because I'm braking the path. But also, that's a little bit like a beat too, because it's still coming forward. So sometimes the lines get a little bit blurred. And this is also where we're not helped with the manuscript either. Remember, these are our definitions to make us today have some definitions to practice these actions, but even Fiore mixed the terminology. So this action, okay, is what Fiore describes as breaking the thrust. I can be really tight there, breaking the thrust, okay? But he also says you can beat it to ground. And I think the reason for that is that, yes, I'm breaking the path of it, but it's still coming forward. It's still a risk, okay? If I mess that up, if we do it really slowly, if I mess that up, it's still going to keep coming forward. So as much as he calls it breaking the thrust, because ideally I am trying to break the thrust, break it to ground, step on it, I might not get the break that clean, and it might look more like a beat, I might just get a little deflection. Oops. So, and I think maybe that's why, I'm clutching at straws a little bit, but these are our definitions, okay? And so I wanted to redo this video because a few people asked for definitions of beats, breaks and covers when I did the first video, and of course that had to be on my own. So hopefully it's a bit more useful now with a partner. So there you go. So just to recap, a cover, okay, just one-handed, nice and hard, John. Yeah, anything where I'm sticking my weapon in the way, basically. One- and two-handed, here we go. Frontale, or finestra, anything where I'm sticking my weapon in the way of his weapon and my body, that's a cover, okay? Next one we did was beats, up, down, or whatever from the other side. Up, down, body, with one hand on the weapon, okay? Here you go, up, down. That's a beat. Beating, just deflecting the angle, taking it away from my body. A break, okay, so that's a break. If you thrust at me, John, coming up, that's a break. From one-handed, up, down, that's a break, beats, breaks and covers. So hope that was useful. Thanks to John, and until the next one.